Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, today we're going to be breaking down some film from Jalen Milroe's first preseason game against the Las Vegas Raiders. So let's get straight into it. The very first play, man, we start off with a gotta-have-it situation. We got a 3rd and 14 play. You got a receiver matched up on the outside, on the boundary side, one-on-one. I'm trying to see. It looks like they're possibly in man-to-man coverage. If they weren't, they probably would be in a cover 3, but I think they're in man-to-man coverage, honestly. So I think it was man up on the outside. And you look at the depth that the receiver, that the corner is playing at, he's playing, I'm talking about way off, obviously, but he's adjusting that based off of the down and distance, knowing that it's a 3rd and 14. They have to get 14 yards to be able to get the first down. So I'm gonna play a little bit off and relax and see the receiver can use that as well as the quarterback to their advantage, because in man-to-man coverage, right, most of the time the corner's eyes are going to be on the receiver's hips to watch the receiver to kind of try to dictate where he's going. Is he going to try to run past me? Is he going to try to run a post? Is he going to try to run a comeback? Whatever the case may be, right? So this is where throwing with anticipation comes into play. So what I mean by that is that every route you draw up, every play you draw up, you're anticipating from a quarterback and a receiver's perspective. As a quarterback, I'm going to speak from a quarterback. I'm expecting you to be there at this particular moment, right? So if we're running a curl, I'm expecting you to run 10 yards, break as if you were doing a comeback, and break down, well, make a break as if you was doing a comeback, break down and work back down to 10 to 8 yards to be able to get the curl. And that would have been enough to possibly get a first down. So with me knowing that as a quarterback, what I mean by throwing with anticipation, I'm expecting you to be at that point. So once you get to that point, the ball is already coming out. That's why we stress the emphasis of getting your head back around as a receiver, because the ball, they teach that. Especially even when we were in high school, they taught it that when you get, the higher you go up, you have to get your head back around, because a lot of times that ball is going to be coming out, right? So this was one of those situations where that you have to throw in anticipation, right? You got off man-to-man coverage, and throwing what he did was, because they haven't built that chemistry up, and obviously time goes on, they're going to be able to do that if they can get more and more consistent, the more reps and things they get together. But you look at, he threw once he saw the receiver was open. Right. So just like once the quarterback sees the receiver open, the DB sees the receiver is open. So if you wait until the receiver is open, just like you see him, the defensive back saw him, just like right here on this play, and it gives them an opportunity to drive downhill and make a play on the ball, just like this one right here. So right here, we got another guy to have a situation. We got a 3rd and 12. So it looked like Milroe is finding himself in the same position that Sanders was finding himself in when I was breaking down film, and that's him playing behind the sticks. And obviously that's expected with this being preseason, with this being, the 2s, the 3s. You expecting to have some hiccups, but right here you have a 3rd and 12. And if you look at the pre-snap read, based off of a pre-snap standpoint, it looks like they were probably sending a blitz. And then you got to think about the down and distance. It's a 3rd and 12. So if you're looking at it from Milroe's perspective, they got the line of scrimmage crowded. They in that somewhat double mug look. So you would be anticipating that they're probably trying to blitz. So at the hike of the ball, the linebackers drop back into pass coverage. Now, so what Milroe did was, I guess once he saw that they dropped back, and he probably was anticipating that this was where he was going to go with the ball if it was a blitz, and now that option is no longer there. So he just steps up in the pocket and try to make something happen. Now, this is one of those things where you say, to me, you can look at it from a few ways. You can say, okay, this is preseason. I much rather want to see you try to make plays in the pocket, just because that's going to help with your overall development. But then you can look at the situation of where they're at in terms of field positioning, and you can say, well, any type of yardage would have been good to try to just add more yards to probably try to pin them farther back on the punt return. But if you wanted to look from a passing standpoint, you probably could have had the running back flaring route right there, and then they could have possibly made it a possible 4th down if you really wanted to possibly go for it. But that's my take on it. I think that they probably were just trying to recover some of their field position off of that penalty to just put them in a better position to try to pin the other team back deep on the punt. But this comes into one of those things where, Milroe's going to have to realize too that, not saying that he doesn't have the ability to get away from or separate from D linemen at the NFL level, but it's not going to be as easy as it was in college. When you get to NFL, man, guys become so much athletic, so much faster, and it becomes that much harder to try to get away from those guys. So right here, you got a 1st and 10 play, and this was idealistic in terms of a matchup that you want to see from the offense. You got the tight end matched up with the linebacker in the slot. So when you look at the linebacker, so look at his leverage. He's already out leveraged. Just look at how much inside, how far inside that he's playing. He really gives the tight end no other option but to release outside, and he's able to get past him. Now, from Milroe, you would probably like to see him probably try to put this ball like on the outside shoulder of the tight end to give him opportunity to be able to catch and run run. Now, I get he was able to catch and run, but that was mainly just because of the separation. So let's just look at thinking about how he threw the ball behind him, so he had to turn around and readjust to make the catch. Now, if that defender would have been closer in the area, that would have been a possibility for him to be able to make a play on the ball, whether there was a pass breakup, whether there was an interception. So you would kind of want to see him kind of put it ahead of the tight end to give him more opportunity to be able to run after the catch and maximize on the opportunity of yards gained. So right here, we got a first down play in the red area. So now you remember how on a couple plays prior to this, when I was talking about him being able to make those throws in the pocket or whatever the case may be, and not just relying so heavy solely on his running so he can develop as a passer. So this is what I like to see right here. So you see they pretty much run like a boot, and he kind of rolls out. And you notice that opposed to him just saying, well, you know what, since I'm already a step ahead, let me just go ahead and try to just eat up some yards running the ball. He allowed for his receiver to finish up on that drag route coming across the middle, and he just did a pretty good job at fitting it in the window off the run. So that's what I like to see right there. I want to see him develop more as a passer. We know what he can do with his legs, right? We already know that. And teams are going to try to scheme, and they try to scheme around stopping him from running the ball and making him be a passer. Now, can you make those passes whenever defenses start taking away the options of you running? And that's what preseason is for me. I want to see his development as a passer. So right here, man, Jalen Milroe shows us what we know him to be so great at, and that's running the ball. So the defensive end did not do a good job at setting the edge. He just bit all the way on the running back. Let's take another look at that. He bit right here, followed the running back all on up the field, and that just left Milroe just on the outside. Tight end was able to seal his block, and Milroe just did the rest. Like I said, once again, we know the danger that is him running the ball. But my thing is I want to see his development as a passer. And it's not just, I'm not saying just as a pocket passer, but also being a guy who can also roll out like how he did on the previous play and make plays throwing the ball on the run, similar to what Shedeur was able to do as well. All right, man. So for the final play, we got a guy to have a situation. We got a 4th and 1. So it really it just was some poor execution on this play right here. So it looks like what they were trying to run, because they kind of had the receivers, stacked. They were trying to run some type of out and wheel concept. To me, that's what it looks like. But it looks like with the corner getting physical at the line of scrimmage, he kind of pushed him back into the receiver in a sense, and things just kind of was out of whack, and it just kind of created an ugly picture. And Milroe just decided to get rid of the ball to possibly not take a sack or whatever the case may be. But a part of me want to say you kind of want to see him be much more aggressive in that situation, because maybe had he just went with his first instinct to run the ball, he possibly would have it. And then also too, maybe he had the receiver going towards the out of bounds line. But those are going to be things that's going to be corrected as preseason goes on. Just being able to get those reps, get that experience with each other, and to try to build that camaraderie to where we're kind of all on the same page whenever these gotta have situations come into play. But ultimately, man, I will agree with what I seen from some people saying about him just being composed as well. I would say that he did a good job too. He didn't really look overwhelmed from the plays that I was looking at. I mean, even the plays when things didn't go as planned, such as this one right here, he still didn't look overwhelmed. He kind of just stayed back there and dealt with whatever it came with. So like I say, man, this is what preseason about. It's all about getting better. It's not about coming out there and just looking, looking like an elite for one game. You know what I mean? It's all about being able to slowly start putting those pieces together game by game, practice by practice, and stacking them up, and just help with with you getting better over the course of the preseason, to put you in a good position to be fighting to be that number 2 quarterback, going into the regular season. But like I said, man, he got some things to work on. Obviously, my biggest thing with him is just his development as a passer. And I'm not saying when I said that I want to see his development as a passer, I don't want that to mean that I'm saying that I want him to try to become a stationary quarterback and just stay back in the pocket. No, you use the gifts that you have. A gift that he has is his legs, so utilize that. But what I mean by that is look at Jalen Hurts. Don't always think to just try to run. Sometimes just be able to extend plays, get out and use your legs to try to create plays down the field. Now, granted, when those opportunities present themselves for you to use your legs, such as this one right here, we want to see that. We want to make sure that you're doing it. So we don't want to change, his game and try to conform him into something he's not. You want him to be able to play off the strengths that he does have, and and just add to his arsenal based off of that. But man, as if for this video, man, if you guys did enjoy this video, do me a big favor, smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure that you got that notification bell turned on, that way you be notified every time I upload. And I'll see y'all in the next video.